We all learned to read, right? Somewhere back in elementary school, we decoded the alphabet, sounded out words, and started putting sentences together. Most of us assume that once we mastered those basics, we were done. Reading became just something we do, like walking or talking. But what if I told you that what most people consider reading is really just the very first step? It's the foundation, but it's far from the whole building. True understanding, deep learning, and genuine intellectual growth require moving far beyond that initial level. It's a skill that can be honed and developed throughout your entire life. Think about how you read most things: news articles, emails, social media posts. You're usually reading to grab information, right? This is what we call reading for information. You're taking facts from material that's generally easy to digest and already within your grasp. But then there's reading for understanding. This is different. This is when you tackle material that might initially be above your current level of comprehension. Your goal isn't just to collect facts, but to elevate your own understanding. You're stretching your mind to grasp new, complex ideas. This is where real intellectual growth happens. It's in the struggle, the grappling with challenging concepts, that your capacity for understanding expands. It requires engaging with the text on much deeper levels. Based on the timeless work of Mortimer Adler and Charles Van Doren, there are four distinct levels of reading. Each level builds upon the last, taking you deeper into the text and the author's mind. Let's break them down. This is the level we talked about mastering in school. It's basic literacy. It's about decoding the words on the page. It's understanding the grammar and syntax to make sense of individual sentences. At this level, you can answer the question, what does this sentence say? It's the absolute bedrock, the entry point into the world of text. Without this, you can't read at all. But achieving this level doesn't mean you can truly understand complex ideas presented in a book. This level is all about efficiency and getting the lay of the land. It's about handling any reading task in a limited amount of time. The core questions here are, what is this book about as a whole, and what is its structure? You're trying to grasp the main idea and how the author organized it without getting bogged down in details. There are two main subtypes of inspectional reading. Both are crucial skills for anyone dealing with a lot of material. This is your first pass at a book you intend to read more deeply. It's a quick survey to understand its scope and argument. You read the title, the preface, and the table of contents. You check the index for key terms and authors. You might read the publisher's blurb or the introduction and conclusion. You might even dip into a few key chapters that seem central to the argument. The goal is to get a quick structural overview. It helps you decide if the book is worth your time and where its main points lie. This is simply reading a book straight through from beginning to end without stopping. You don't pause to look up words or ponder difficult passages. The purpose is to get the overall flow and gist of the argument. You accept that you won't understand everything on this first pass. This is especially useful for challenging books. Reading it superficially first makes a second, deeper reading much more productive. Inspectional reading saves you time and helps you prioritize. It's a vital skill for navigating the sheer volume of information available today. Now we're getting serious. Analytical reading is thorough, active, and deep. It's about achieving true understanding of a single book. You're not just absorbing information, you're engaging in a dialogue with the author, you're dissecting their arguments and evaluating their claims. The central questions are, what is the author saying in detail? And is it true? Is it well reasoned? This level requires significant effort and concentration. It's where you move from knowing what the book says to understanding why the author says it and whether you agree. There are several key activities involved in analytical reading. They can be grouped into stages. First, you aim to understand the structure and purpose of the book. You try to outline the author's argument chapter by chapter, section by section. You identify the main parts and how they fit together. You understand the author's overall plan. Second, you interpret the content. This means coming to terms with the author's vocabulary, identifying key words, and understanding how the author uses them. You then identify the author's key propositions or sentences that state important assertions. You figure out the author's main arguments by finding the sequences of propositions that lead to conclusions. You're essentially translating the author's complex ideas into terms you can fully grasp. You're making sure you understand exactly what they mean. Third, you critique the work. Only after you are sure you understand the author completely can you judge the book fairly. You evaluate the author's truthfulness and reasoning. Are their premises sound? Do their conclusions logically follow from their arguments? You also consider the book's completeness. Did the author address all the relevant aspects of the topic? Are there gaps or omissions? Analytical reading is demanding but incredibly rewarding. It transforms you from a passive recipient of information into an active critical thinker. This is the most complex and active level of reading. It involves reading not just one book, but multiple books on the same subject. Your goal is to construct your own analysis of the subject using the various authors as resources. It's comparative reading on a grand scale. The main question here is, what can be learned about this subject by comparing and contrasting what various authors have said about it? You are creating a synthesis of knowledge. Syntopical reading is like convening a conversation among experts who may never have met. You are the moderator, bringing their ideas together to form a larger picture. This level also involves a series of distinct steps. It's a research project in itself. First, you compile a bibliography of relevant books on the subject. This requires some initial inspectional reading to identify the key works. Second, you inspect all the books on your list. You use systematic skimming to determine which ones are truly relevant to your specific questions about the subject. Third, you bring the authors to terms. This is crucial and challenging. Different authors might use the same word with different meanings or different words for the same concept. You must establish a neutral vocabulary that allows you to compare their ideas directly. You define the terms of the discussion yourself. Fourth, you frame a set of questions that you want the authors to answer. These questions guide your reading and analysis. You are imposing a structure on the subject based on your interests. Fifth, you define the issues. Based on your questions, you identify where the authors agree and, more importantly, where they disagree. You articulate the different sides of the arguments. Finally, you analyze the discussion. You explore the different perspectives, the reasons behind the disagreements, and the evidence each author uses. You construct your own understanding of the subject informed by all the voices. Syntopical reading is powerful. It allows you to move beyond understanding a single author's view to understanding the landscape of thought on a subject. It makes you an authority, not just a reader. Reading isn't a switch that's either on or off. It's a skill, like playing a musical instrument or a sport. And like any skill, it improves with practice and conscious effort. Different reading goals require different levels of engagement. Reading a novel for pleasure is different from reading a textbook for a test, which is different from reading philosophical texts to understand a concept deeply. Crucially, the higher levels of reading build upon the lower ones. You can't do analytical reading if you can't do elementary reading. You can't do syntopical reading without mastering inspectional and analytical skills. Unfortunately, most formal education stops after teaching elementary reading. We're rarely explicitly taught how to skim effectively, how to analyze an argument, or how to compare multiple complex texts. This leaves many people stuck at the foundational level, or perhaps intuitively using parts of the higher levels without a clear method. Understanding these levels gives you a roadmap for improvement. Becoming a truly proficient reader is a journey. It's not about reading faster, it's about reading better, reading smarter, and reading deeper. The 4 levels of reading provide that roadmap. They show you what's possible and what skills you need to develop. The ultimate goal is to transform reading from a passive activity into an active, powerful tool for intellectual growth, critical thinking, and lifelong learning. It's about making books work for you. So, how do you start moving up the levels? Here are 3 concrete action steps you can take right now. Action step 1, practice inspectional reading. Grab a non-fiction book you own but haven't read deeply. Spend 15 to 30 minutes systematically skimming it using the techniques we discussed. Title, contents, index, introduction, conclusion, blurb, key chapters. Don't read it, inspect it, get a feel for its structure and main points. Do this regularly with new books to improve your efficiency and selection process. Action step 2, apply superficial reading. Pick a book that you find challenging or dense. Commit to reading it straight through without stopping to look things up or reread difficult passages. Just focus on getting the overall flow and the main ideas, even if you only grasp 50% of it. This first pass will make a subsequent, more analytical reading much less intimidating and far more effective. Action. Step 3. Ask the first analytical question. When you finish reading a chapter or even a whole book superficially, pause and ask yourself the most fundamental analytical question. What is this book or chapter about as a whole? Try to answer it in just 1 or 2 sentences. This forces you to synthesize the main point and is the very first step in outlining and interpreting the author's message. Mastering these levels of reading isn't just about consuming more information, it's about developing your capacity to think critically, understand complex ideas, and engage meaningfully with the world of knowledge. It empowers you to learn anything you set your mind to.